#1 overall pick coming in. I feel like this was the perfect thing for Las Vegas.
Having Kirk Cousins there is such a big deal.
Hello, Chris Canty and Freddie Coleman and Harry Douglas. Me and HD in for Evan Cohen and Michelle Small. First things first, Dan, the signing by Kirk Cousins, getting guaranteed money once again, this time getting it from the Las Vegas Raiders. He is the greatest quarterback in NFL history when it comes to that. But realistically, what do you believe he can actually do with the new Las Vegas Raiders?
Well, he can play while they get Fernando Mendoza ready, and that's what they've been telling people for months, is that they don't want to play Mendoza right away. So Cousins, I mean, that's real money. $20 million is no joke. So that's a guy that they expect to play. How long? Will be tied to, from their standpoint, Fernando Mendoza's development. But, realistically, we've seen this over and over again throughout the years. If the team starts losing games, changes get made. So pressure will be on Kirk Cousins to play well and to win, to hold off the rookie. It's interesting, Cousins going voluntarily to a situation similar to the one he found himself in Atlanta 2 years ago by surprise when he signed with them, and then they drafted Michael Penix 8th overall. So this time at least he goes in with eyes open, knowing eventually he's going to have to hand that job off, but obviously he's comfortable with the situation.
Graz, I want to take it to the Philadelphia Eagles and the article by our very own Jeremy Fowler. Is there something to the timing of the article that came out and left room for criticism for quarterback Jalen Hurts? What do you make of that reporting, that article coming out this past week?
Yeah, I don't like speculating on the motivation of sources, especially stories I didn't write. So I think what I'll say on the Eagles story, which is very thoroughly and well reported by Jeremy Fowler and Tim McManus, is it brings to light some things that have sort of been bubbling beneath the surface the last couple of years in terms of how much is Jalen Hurts a part of the issues on offense, as opposed to, the offensive line or, whatever else is going on. So I think the fact that that's kind of the conversation has elevated to that point really puts Jalen Hurts in a situation where there's a lot of pressure on him this year. If he doesn't show certain specific things that are delineated by the sources in that article, I think you're in a situation where the Eagles a year from now start to think about, is there another option? Is there another way we can go at this position? Tough to do. I mean, they've won 70% of the games he's started. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He came pretty close to winning 2 of them. So I think it's a dicey situation. And I will say this, Jalen Hurts has shown an ability to improve at the things that he struggles with. That was the story of the early part of his career. So I think part of it is a hope that that the message is delivered and that he is able to work on the things that need him to work on.
Ross, let me ask you this. What's your true feeling when it comes to Philly? Do you feel like they can put a Band-Aid over everything that's happened, sit by the campfire, crisscross applesauce, and sing Kumbaya?
I think yes, because we've seen it, right? Like we've seen them fight through the behind-the-scenes stuff and have success. I mean, we think about last year being a disappointment, and it was, but they still won 11, I think.
11-6.
11-6.
So they are really operating according to different standards than a lot of other teams, which fair. I mean, they won the Super Bowl. So they're trying to win as many as they can and go down in history and all that. So I'm not making up a standard for them. It's the one they hold themselves to. But yeah, I think the key is going to be how easily the points come, because when we have seen the stuff bubble up in the locker room and beneath the surface, it's been when the offense has struggled. You look at the tail end of the 2023 season, and you look at pretty much the entire 2025 season. These were the issues that were being talked about, and they ultimately did them in. So I think if they have success, if they score points, if Sean Mannion, the new offensive coordinator, is the stud they think he is, and if Jalen Hurts, look, I mean, we're living in a situation where he could be without A.J. Brown. So what do they do there? They're going to have to replace that production. I think it can be done. I think it's all tied to on-field success with them. And I think we've seen that sort of go both ways over the last 3-4 years with the Eagles.
Dan Graziano, ESPN NFL Insider, joining us on Sportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and ESPN2. What does your gut tell you about A.J. Brown either being an Eagle or not being an Eagle, especially after June 1st, where that dead cap hit is now $43.1 million. It goes down to anywhere between 16 to 20 million in dead cap money.
Yeah, my gut leans toward him being on the Patriots this year.
Really?
I don't think it's 100% certain, but there just seemed to be a lot of smoke around this situation. And you're absolutely right that after June 1st, it becomes a lot easier for them to do it with regard to their salary cap. So the question becomes, do you want to do it before the draft and get picks this year, or do you want to wait and save the cap hit? I think if you're the Eagles, you're probably in a situation where you need to respect the cap hit and wait till after June 1st. But that's not to say they couldn't get offered something that blows their doors off between now and 3 weeks from now when the draft happens. But I do think the most likely outcome here, it seems like, at this point, would be an A.J. Brown trade after June 1st, and it sounds like the Patriots have been the most interested team.
Graz, the Baltimore Ravens underwent a coaching change this offseason, moving from John Harbaugh to Jesse Minter. Another week, no Lamar Jackson contract. Now, earlier in the offseason, offensive coordinator Declan Doyle said the expectation is that the players would be in the building. As we inch closer to voluntary, in air quotes, voluntary workouts, what is the expectation in terms of Lamar Jackson's participation in the offseason program?
Yeah, I mean, like, Declan Doyle isn't allowed to say that. Like, you can't publicly pressure players. I understand.
He said it.
So you see the Ravens kind of softening a little bit in their public comments, as they should. They don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, I think the hope, I don't know about expectation, because with Lamar, it's difficult. Like, he marches to his own drummers. So I think the hope is that he's in the building learning the new offense, but they can't require him to be. They can't pressure him to be. And
hope he's in the building.
Well, I mean,
for a guy that we're going to pay $60 million a year to.
But see, they're not doing that yet, and that's the other thing, right? He's got 2 years left on his contract. They were very clear early in the offseason they wanted to do an extension. They got to the start of the league year with the extension not done, so they had to restructure his contract to float some of the cap hits out into future years, which they did not want to do. So what that tells you is they were unsuccessful in engaging him in contract extension talks. And there's nothing that requires him to engage on that level. He could play out these 2 years and go somewhere else if he wants to. That's out there. Like, it's 2 years left on his contract. They went to him about an extension this offseason. It hasn't happened. And there's been there's been a point on the calendar that has passed where it would have benefited the team greatly for it to have happened by then, and it didn't. I just think there's a lot. You asked what the expectation is around Lamar Jackson. I think it's a hard question to ask because he does his own thing, and right now he's under contract for 2 more years. I'm not sure he's super motivated to do anything about it.
Raj, you can't breadcrumb something like that and not have me take the bait. I'm just curious when it comes to the Lamar Jackson factor and staying with the Baltimore Ravens and finishing his career there. When we go back to the Ravens having to restructure his contract this offseason, was that a decision that they made in conjunction with Lamar, or was that something that was done unilaterally by the Baltimore Ravens?
They had automatic conversion rights in the contract, so they did not need his permission or his signature to restructure it and convert salary to bonus and float out the cap hits into future years. So that was their fallback all along if they couldn't get the extension done, and that's what happened.
Okay.
That's one to watch in Baltimore, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Guys, I do want to ask this past weekend you had the owners' meetings. They were out there in Arizona. What was the number one topic of conversation within those meetings?
The NFL Network, ESPN merger.
Really?
No, I'm just, among the people.
Wow.
Everybody knows what's going to happen. No, I think it's the officials. I think the conversations they're having with the officials about a new contract, the collective bargaining agreement with the officials expires at the end of May. There's already discussion about the process of bringing in, training, and onboarding replacement officials. They passed a rule that will allow the league to overturn calls if they're obviously wrong by replacement officials this year. So they're obviously gearing up for a long fight, and I think everybody's eager to see what the result of this is. The agreement runs through May 31st, so they have that amount of time to negotiate a new one, and probably a little bit more because the season doesn't start in June. But I think the league is letting it be known they're serious, that they're willing to move ahead with replacement officials if that's what it takes for them to get what they want in this deal. And I think that's got a few people on edge.
Good luck, referees. You're about to find what the players have gone through with the NFL all these years.
Hey, good luck with that.
Good luck, ex-Foot Locker guys. Good luck with that involving the NFL. Dan, always a pleasure, my friend. We can't wait to talk to you sooner and sooner. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Also, great stuff by Dan Graziano, ESPN senior NFL reporter, also inside as well, joining us on Sports Unlike. He's Chris Canty. You got me, Freddie Coleman, and Harry Douglas.